Hello, everybody. My name is Cynthia. I'll be presenting today on acculturation, immigration among LGBT immigrants. And it's a pleasure to be here in front of you, although not there physically, but through video. Um, I want to thank you for welcoming our presentation on today's topic, and I hope you're having a great time at APA. So, first, I wanted to get started by talking about the immigration process that oftentimes um, immigrants go through, and specifically LGBT immigrants. We should note that through the immigration process, there is an adjustment process also that happens that causes immigrants often to experience instability and disruption in their social identity, and can increase some stress in their body, their mental health, also some stress in their environment as well. Um, Immigrants usually have to negotiate between their heritage culture retention and their new US culture acquisition. Often, this process is called acculturation. So, the acculturation process within the LGBTQ plus Latinx community is deeply rooted in intersectionality, as they have to process their immigrant identity, but also their sexual identity, or their identity that comes with identifying as an individual of the LGBTQ plus community. So today I want to talk about some things that we know about the research that are important to note, and one of them is that immigrants face multiple challenges along their adjustment process. One of these can be language barriers, oftentimes securing employment, as it can be hard due to any kind of discrimination against immigrants and or against members of the LGBT community. Um, that being said, there might be some anti-immigrant discrimination, or LGBT community discrimination happening in the workforce, and thus it can be hard for individuals to find employment. And this can often lead to some homelessness, or just general financial instability. Another thing that often can be a challenge is homesickness. So, the process of acculturating and adjusting to the country can cause homesickness. And, we can see that in the therapy room as signs of depression. And so, oftentimes, it can be helpful to tease apart what what is being asked or assessed as depression, and what is being asked and assessed as homesickness, and see how those are kind of intertwining with each other. The as this community, as I mentioned here recently, is something important is the intersectionality factor. Oftentimes, this community is called as having a double jeopardy, as being in double jeopardy, and what that means is that they're often exposed to health risk factors associated with being immigrants, and also members of the LGBT community. And a research article by Monroe in 2013 talks about how there are two sets of risk factors that often come together and put these individuals at a double jeopardy in their mental health. And, mental health is a large spectrum that can, be depression, anxiety, even trauma for a lot of people. And we know that for all of these mental health risks factors or mental health um, just components, um, family and community and even religious affiliations in the past have been noted as protective factors for members of the LGBTQ community or immigrant community. But when someone in the immigrant community identifies as members of the LGBTQ community, it can make those protective factors become primary sources of rejection or discrimination due to, the sexual prejudice that can be in family or community or religious affiliations. Aside from these communities facing rejection in their family, community, or religion, the opposite can happen as well, where language or cultural barriers or even racism in the mainstream LGBTQ plus community itself can make it difficult for immigrants to integrate into their community. So it can leave them somewhere in the middle, and that can be really tough when trying to find a source of support in this process that they're going through. Overall, we have seen that lower levels of acculturation in the LGBTQ community, immigrants in the LGBT community have predicted higher levels of risk behaviors and such as sexual risk behaviors or drinking and alcohol abuse behaviors. Overall, what we're seeing today in regards to acculturation and immigration is that the social political climate and the environmental climate and the environment that we're living in today in regards to immigration has shown that there is a higher risk of mistreatment in immigration detention center facilities than other detainees. So there is a higher risk of mistreatment among the LGBTQ plus immigrant community that are in these detention facilities. So throughout the literature, I found all of these things, and research has found many things that are composed as challenges, protective factors, and just things to keep in mind. And so, what does that mean for us? That's the practical applications that we really want to talk about today. And so, I here made on the next slide, I made 4 really practical applications that we should be considering, and then after that, I'll introduce the discussion / activity to apply the practical implications. So the first one is becoming an advocate in the therapy room. So asking clients in these communities how you can help them increase their resources. And that can happen in the therapy room, so that brainstorming can start to happen, but also not only asking the clients, but helping them, either Googling things with them or researching with them, being that advocate and being that goal-oriented, almost practitioner that to help them to increase their resources in their life. As we know, just in general, sources of emotional support or just support in general is a protective factor for anyone that is going through mental health problems, and can help them to navigate this process of adapting to a new country, but also adapting in their own sexual identity. The other one is becoming an advocate outside of the therapy room. So, for us therapists, being politically active about urging policymakers to increase alternatives to detention centers for LGBTQ plus individuals. So, as mentioned previously on my slide, it has shown that that there is a high risk of mistreatment for these individuals in detention facilities, and so we should be advocating outside of the therapy room about how politically and policy needs to change in order to best serve these individuals. The third thing that I want to talk about is helping clients to get safety. Above all, safety is the number one component in their adjustment process and in their adaptation process. So helping clients to find a group of people where they feel supported and safe, and they can help them navigate this process, whether in that safety, whether knowing who to contact whenever they feel at risk, or maybe finding legal aid at the moment. And that's something that, as therapists, we are oftentimes it feels like it's outside of our range of things that we can do. But for these individuals, a lot of times we are the only people that they have that can help them in these times. So thinking about how we can also be resources for them, to helping them find legal aid if needed. And the last thing is discussing ways to help them adapt as a way of coping. So as mentioned previously, brainstorming with clients about specific behavioral changes that can help them adapt to their environment. Whether, I talk about whether it's changing which grocery store they go to, one that is safe, but also that can help them get them exposed to either more people from where they feel mostly connected to. And another one can be calling more friends back home, someone that they feel connected to. And another one can be saying hi to neighbors more often, or finding someone in their environment that they can feel connected to. So thinking about all these things in the practical applications, I did a little case vignette that I want you guys to just talk about and see how you can be an advocate in the therapy room, outside of the therapy room, help this client find safety and adapt as a way of coping. So the activity is, I'll read it out loud and then I'll let Sakina and Abby kind of take over. And then I'll just read it quickly. So the discussion question starts with Mr. Q, a 25-year-old Salvadorian man. And tell me about just the general practical implications that you find in this case vignette, and how you think you can best serve them to the best of your ability, given also the areas in practice in where you're at, whether it's a hospital, whether it's a community mental health. Tell me the things that can become barriers, and at the same time things that can become helpful to you as you're helping these individuals. All right, so my time is up, but I hope you have a great time and a great conference, and let me know if you have any questions. You can contact me, Sakina or Abby, at our respective emails. Alrighty, bye-bye.